Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Vanessa and we are going to move you over this way. I asked on Instagram if anyone had any questions, any cues about me moving home. Oh my god, what is going on? So I figured I'd do a little answering while getting ready. Let's get this rolling and then we'll start with the cues. I guess I'll give a little brief background. You know I love to talk, so we'll do that first. I am living in Pennsylvania. I have lived in Philly for the past 4 years. Ever since college, I really didn't ever live at home for more than just like coming home for breaks, not even summers. And then when the pandemic hit in March of 2020, I was living in Philadelphia. I ended up moving home until the end of May. And then moved out back down to Philly on my own. Got my first apartment on my own in the beginning of June. So I was there. My lease was for a year at that apartment. So it would have ended, I think, the end of May. But I actually cut my lease 6 months short and I moved out at the end of December, literally December 27th. So a few days after Christmas I moved out. And it occurred to me when I was home for Thanksgiving that I had been toying with the idea of how much money I could save and how pointless it was for me to be spending the money on rent out in Philadelphia. If you haven't heard me talk about my apartment, I have multiple videos about it. I'm very open about everything. I was very open about the search, what I was looking to spend, so I can link all those down there for you. I'm not going to waste my time going through those details. But I just realized, you know, after college, I knew exactly what I wanted to do, and I wanted to take influencing social media full time. And I definitely could not support myself just based off of that income that was coming in, because I was really just like starting out. Basically, I just knew that if I was starting out, why would I be wasting all this money? I just thought that was so stupid. Like, why would I waste my money? Rather than saving that money, moving home and living here until we kind of figure out, my boyfriend and I figure out what we are going to do moving forward. Do you regret moving back home, missing the city, being further from friends? And I do not regret moving home at all, because like I said, I moved home in December. I honestly wish I never even moved back to Philly, because for the time being that I was there, I barely saw any of my friends, which I'm not like somebody that hangs out with friends often anyway. Like I'm such a grandma. I'm like a 40-year-old in a 22-year-old body, and I am perfectly content with that. Like, of course I wish I saw them more, but I never really get to the point where it's like, it makes me so sad. Like, my life is very, very busy and I like it that way, so it doesn't really allow me time to be sad that I can't see my friends that often. So I need to stop blending this and move on. So no, I do not regret moving home. I wish I would have done it sooner. I wish I would have never even moved back out there, because it was pointless from the time being that I was there. I barely even went out and did anything, because like things were still so like up and down with restrictions. And Philly at the time, and I think Philly now maybe, is still following their own restrictions, not like based off of PA overall. So they're like in their own little bubble, and I wasn't really doing anything anyway. I wasn't wanting to like spend money. And if Dom was there, my boyfriend, we probably would have spent a lot more money, because we spend a lot of money when we're together. But I didn't want to spend the money and go out and do things often, and yet again there was just not really much you could do. So that was the case, and that's still like, things are easing up now, but I feel like it's still not like completely normal yet. And I'm just like, I have no interest in being there. Like, yes, I miss like more of like the bars and the restaurants you could go out to, but it's not something that I'm like so like super sad about. This is my first summer that I have here, the entire summer with no restrictions, and like we live in the country basically. So everything is beautiful and green, and I love nature. Like, I feel like I am my best self when I am surrounded by nature, and I get to finally be here, do that. We have a pool here, so I could take half days if I want, or do work by the pool. Like, in my opinion, I'm so glad I'm here, especially for the summer. In the winters, it's definitely a different story, but I do not regret any of my decisions at all. And I honestly would say, if you are debating it and you have the ability to move home right after graduating, I honestly would recommend it, because so far it has been great. Like, honestly, really great. And thankfully for the flexibility of my job, I have traveled to visit my best friend in Florida, and stayed with her for like 10 days each time, twice already. So I had lived in Philly when I visited her the first time, but I plan to visit her again this summer, and I just have the flexibility to like leave and go somewhere, stay somewhere if I really wanted to, change up my scenery, which I am so thankful for. Okay, next question. Oh, missing the city as well. Like I said, I kind of touched on that, but another question is, I'm about to live alone for the first time. Any tips for when you feel lonely / tips in general? Yes. So I thought, you know, I'm kind of an introvert extrovert. Like, I'm not afraid to talk to people. I'm like good in a group setting. I could become friends with like basically anyone in a setting, but I am definitely like an introvert in the sense that I need to recharge my batteries after being like out and about and around people. So I thought moving out on my own I was going to be totally fine, because I am perfectly fine with being alone. But I quickly realized that I got into like a pretty, not like a depressed state, but I was often sad, and like there's just a lot going on in my life where I was like really contemplating every day, and so that just like wasn't a good recipe. And also just like living alone and not really seeing anyone. The things that I ended up doing to help those times when I like was feeling lonely is, first of all, I don't watch TV or really Netflix or anything like that, but I do watch YouTube. And I wasn't going to buy a TV, but I'm so glad I bought a TV then, because that ended up being my best friend. I had the TV on like at all times throughout the day. Basically, I would throw on YouTube videos and just binge watch like vlogs and have them playing in the background while I was doing work, just so it was like white noise. Like I felt like I had somebody else there with me, and if it wasn't like playing YouTube videos while I was working or eating or whatever it was, I usually had like music playing on Spotify in the background. Or during the winter and the fall weather months, I had on like a crisp fireplace in the background that was like crackling. So jazz music, like literally my TV was my best friend, and I think that's like my #1 tip. Like I said, I am an introvert, so I'm like okay with being alone, so I can't really help you out there with like making sure you're making time to see your friends, because I didn't do that. Like, just I think the biggest thing was having some sort of white noise on in the background that made me feel a lot less alone. Really helped a lot. And I would have that TV on like in the morning, at night, before going to bed. Like, it never really affected me in a negative way. It only really benefited me in the long run. Do they charge you for rent at all? So my parents, do they charge me for rent at all as you're making decent money? And no, they do not. I'm so thankful. I'm sure other parents do charge their kids, but they would my parents would never charge me rent, and I am very thankful for that. This is like my home too, and they are so happy for me to be here, and I we have like such a really great relationship. I'm definitely a hard worker. They know that. They're both entrepreneurs as well, so they understand the grind, and they would never make me pay when they know I'm just starting out trying to build an income and a salary for myself to like make a living off of. I am very, very, very fortunate, but they totally understand my situation, and they, like I said, we have such a great relationship that they just would never ask for that. I do, like, you know, I lived on my own. I've always been a very responsible person. So I also, like I said, I'm very independent, and I loved when I like lived alone that I had my own routine and schedule and like would make dinner, and I love cooking and stuff like that, and like cleaning, like all of that stuff. And if there's ever a time where, you know, my parents need anything, need me to run places, like I love grocery shopping and my parents hate it, so I do a lot of the grocery shopping. I have recently started getting back into cooking, and my mom hates cooking even though she's a good cook, so I do things like that to help out around the house, clean up, do, you know, like unload the dishwasher, run errands. Like I said, like there are things here and there that I do to like just help out, because I hate the feeling of like just them doing everything. Like I'm 22 years old and that just doesn't sit well with me. Like I feel like I want to contribute in some way. So I'm very thankful for all of that, but no, they do not make me pay. They always joke about it. We always joke that they could start charging me rent, but they would never. Next question. What was your biggest obstacle moving home? Let me sit on this one for a second. I think I got it. My biggest obstacle with moving home, I think, was just like anything for me. I'm a very big routine gal, and oftentimes, like, I feel like every 6 or so months, maybe sometimes even more, my routine switches so often, and it throws me off for quite a few weeks, sometimes months, where it takes me a while to get used to a new routine. Just like anything though, like that happens with everyone and anything. It takes time to get used to something. And, you know, think about it this way, like college, 2020, I was in my first semester senior year of college. I ended up moving home, got used to a new routine of moving home, and by the time that I got used to that routine, I ended up moving out, moved to my apartment. It took me months, like I think probably up until August, to get into a routine of living on my own. And then I moved home in December, so, you know, again, switching my routine like for the third time, fourth time in a year. And then I feel like just getting used to being back at home, and my routine in my apartment was different than it is here, and trying to take elements that I like that there and incorporating them into like my new routine. And, you know, I live with my mom and dad, so and getting used to their routine, like they eat dinner so much like earlier than I do typically, so I always, personally, I like to eat together as a family. So just like, you know, little things like that, working out, getting up and working out, and just my work schedule is often changing a lot too, so I like reevaluate that every few months. So it's just a lot of changes, and I think that was definitely the biggest obstacle. I feel like I only recently have gotten pretty used to my routine at home. And of course now with the seasons changing, I feel like oftentimes a routine also changes with the seasons. So now with the seasons changing and it's nicer out, I'm trying to incorporate, you know, a little bit of a newer routine to freshen up my daily life, and so things don't get boring, and like I'm constantly staying motivated and creative and all of that stuff. So that was definitely my biggest challenge, but I feel like that's always just going to be a challenge because I switch up my routine so frequently. Somebody asked if I could do a video about budgeting, which I have done one of those at the beginning of the year, and it kind of still holds true. A lot of that information still holds true. So if you are interested, that will be linked below as well for you to watch. But how long do I plan to live at home? To be honest, I don't really have a plan, and it's kind of crazy because this is like the first time in my life that I really don't have a future plan. And I feel like, you know, if you know me, I'm such a planner. I've always had my life planned to a T. I knew where I wanted to go to college at the age of like, I don't know, when I was in like 7th grade, 8th grade, I knew where I wanted to go to college. I knew where I wanted to live. I knew the timeline of when I wanted to graduate early on. Like, I've always known what I wanted to be the next step. And I definitely am in constant pursuit of that next step. However, I'm very content with just being here and just taking it day by day, month by month. I just know for right now, I personally am not at the point where I would personally want to move out, because I know, again, like I said, I want to have a very substantial amount of money saved before heading out. And I'm so thankful, again, like I don't have any like I barely have expenses living at home. Like if I go out and like, you know, go to eat or go get coffee, like that is all on me. That's all my money that I'm spending. However, I don't have to pay for groceries. Thankfully, I don't have to pay for rent. I don't have a car bill to pay. I don't have car insurance. Like I don't have anything like that. The only thing I really have is a phone bill and like minimal subscription fees here and there every month. And a lot of those are business expenses, so I can write those off. But my expenses living at home are very, very minimal. I don't really do much here at all. Like the only time I ever do anything is when I travel to go visit Dom. That's where I spend money. So I luckily get to save a lot of money. And I want to be at a certain point where I'm content and comfortable with how much I'm making every single month before moving out. And I know that when that time comes, I will, you know, and it will be the right time for me to move out. But right now, that time is just not any time in my future, in my opinion. Another thing, I probably am not going to be able to talk while I do this, but we are also waiting for Dom. Dom, like I said, we want to move in together. The next move I make will most likely be with him. So we want to move back to the city at some point. However, he's kind of waiting for a job position to open up, and that most likely isn't going to be for another 6 months to a year. So that's kind of like the timeline I'm thinking about. I'm most likely thinking like a year from now, tops maybe, but who really knows? I don't really have a plan for that, and I'm content with that because I'm just focusing on my business and growing that right now. And whenever it's the right time for us to move, we will move. And how much do I plan to save? They also asked. I do not have an amount in mind. I am just focusing on growing my business, and I hope to just be saving like at least 6 months of expenses saved. I'm really pushing to achieve a 6-figure salary by the end of the year, and that is what I'm pushing for. So if I am accomplishing that, I am not worried about the expenses. And another thing too, my job is not very linear. It's very, you know, I could get $0 one month and 10 grand the next month. There's just absolutely no glass ceiling as to how much money you can make, which is why I love what I do. But with that being said, you just really can't, I can't predict what's gonna happen. I'm just pushing for that 6-figure salary, and that's like that's what goal I have in mind for myself. And if I hit above, great. If I don't hit it, I'm sure I'll be right around it. And I'm confident in those answers. So I'm gonna finish up my makeup and then I'll get back to you in a second. Alright, so that is it. Thank you guys so much for watching today's video. If you enjoyed it, make sure to give it a thumbs up. If you are interested in checking out any of the other previous videos I've filmed about this topic, they'll be in the description box. But I hope you guys have a great day, and I will talk to you guys next time.